Hello, I'm Reb Day, and I spent way longer than I'd care to admit trying to get the frame right and looking nice for this video, but it didn't go very well, and time's ticking on, and I need to get on with my day. So welcome to this video where I A, convince you that I've got my life together, and B, deceive you into thinking that I'm a professional, capable human woman. It's a big ask. I don't think we'll get both done today. Long story long, whenever I need validation, I go to Instagram and I do a Q&A on the stories, and a lot of people ask me about my job and what I actually do. So I did another Instagram story and I did a tweet on the Bird website, basically asking what you wanted to know about producing. Quite frankly, the response was too much. I think I had like 150 questions across Instagram and the Bird website. So I thought, hey, let's create some content. I think I'm going to make this into a little kind of two-parter series. I mean, is it a series if it's only 2 parts? In this video, I'm going to be answering not all 150 questions, but the ones that cropped up the most. And then in part 2, I'm gonna do, I think, a production breakdown of a sketch that I've produced. So if you want to see that, let me know, but I have already made up my mind that I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try and get through these questions as quickly as possible, but some of them do require more detailed answers, but we'll keep it pacey. Please note that I'm only going to be talking about my experience of producing in my niche little bubble in which I operate. I'm not going to be talking about TV producing or like feature film, big budget producing, because I do not have experience of those worlds. The question I easily got asked the most was, what is a producer? And to be fair, it's a very good question. The producer is the person who is logistically and financially responsible for a project. And whilst they might have some creative input, it's not their sole responsibility. I should also point out that the lines of where a producer begins and ends, especially for me, changes from job to job. Like, a lot of these questions are dependent on the individual project. Running off the back of that, a lot of people asked me, what does the job entail? And I've had to write a list that I'm just going to reel off to you. Over anything else, my main job is looking after the budget and how it's spent, basically. My job is to, alongside the director, work out how we can make the project we want to make within the financial limitations that we have. And that often means doing quite a lot of problem solving and trying to find kind of workarounds and coming up with solutions. So apart from dealing with the budget, here is my list of all the other things that I do. I research, source and scout locations and basically make sure logistically and creatively that they are suitable for us to film in. That's if we're filming in like a private location. If we're filming in a public location like a street, it's my job to investigate whether we need permits and permissions from the council to film there. I find and book crew members and I deal with all their contracts, see if they've got any allergies or dietary requirements before they come on set. I organise the hire of camera, lighting and production equipment. I give feedback on script edits in pre-production and edit drafts in post-production. If it's a very small scale project and we don't have an assistant director, the director and myself will make schedules for the shoot days, and I will also do the call sheets and issue those. And then when we're on set, I'll make sure that we're sticking to schedule. I do risk assessments with the help of the camera and lighting departments and the art department. Very small scale, but if we don't have a dedicated costume or props person, I will go and source and buy costumes and props. If rehearsals are needed before the shoot, I will book a venue for those and arrange the appropriate and necessary people to be at those rehearsals. I basically marry the creative and the technical and make sure that everyone knows what they're doing, when and where, whilst keeping an eye on the budget and making sure that no one's overspending. In an ideal world, and definitely film and TV world, I would have a team of like 4 or 5 people to do all those things. What is my role on set? So by the time everybody gets to set and we're shooting, my bulk of the job is kind of done. Like, in theory, I wouldn't need to be there. I don't think there's been a shoot so far where I haven't been there. Mostly because I'm a registered first aider and it is an insurance requirement and good practice to have a registered first aider on set at all times. Also normally in charge of making sure people are fed, so I organise lunch and breakfast and dinner if necessary and snackies. I'm basically on hand to solve any problems that may arise from a logistical standpoint. So a lot of the time I'm sat in a corner on my laptop either sorting out transport or equipment hire pickups or getting the call sheet done for the next day if it's more than a one-day shoot. Also that everyone's being safe is another major one. I'm very rarely on set because if I don't need to be there then I'm just sort of taking up room. But I do pop in occasionally and see what the hell they're making. What qualities / skills do you need for the job? Interpersonal skills, good communication, a relatively good head for numbers or at least some kind of financial savvy, multitasking, being organised, time management, being good in a crisis, ability to stay level-headed, good at problem solving, leadership skills. You have to be good at being self-motivated and good at working independently, but also be really good at collaboration and working in a team. And a first aid certificate is just one of those little ones which is super handy. What is the job like day to day? It really depends on at what point we're at in a project, but most of the time I am looking over a spreadsheet, emailing people, having phone calls with people, having meetings, reading like briefs or reading scripts, any say in casting. It depends from project to project. I do have an opportunity to express my opinion or put forward an actor that I think would be good for the role, but in most cases the decision doesn't ultimately fall to me. But on set, if we don't have a designated second AD, it is my job to look after the cast when they come on set. How did you get into it? Before I talk about how I got into producing personally, I do want to make a point of the fact that I don't think there is a right way to get into it. I'm aware that I took a very unconventional route. This is just my experience, as we said at the beginning. I did a BTEC in performing arts at college, and whilst I was there, randomly got the opportunity to be a runner on The World's End, the Edgar Wright film, because they were filming in the town that I was living in at the time. The film is entirely set at night, so I was doing like 4 PM till 4 AM on set, and then college from 9 AM till 3 PM, and just kind of went on that cycle for a week, and it was dumb, quite frankly. It's not like I instantly fell in love with it and mentally it like changed my career path or changed my heart as to how I felt about performing versus production, but I didn't hate it. Hot Fuzz is also my favourite film of all time, so it was sick to be on set with Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, Nick Frost. Like, that was a pretty mental experience. I finished college, my plan was to audition for drama school. I didn't audition and I was like, hey, I'm gonna take a year off. My plan was to re-audition for drama school the following year, and basically that just never happened. I was in a web series called Two Housemates, and my now friend and often colleague Sammy Paul was a cameo in that series, and we met, and I basically, for some reason, offered to be like a pair of hands on set if he were to ever need it. And he took me up on that offer like 4 months later, and I was a production assistant and continuity supervisor on he and Bertie's short film Blue Sushi. Basically through that I met a lot of people, and my name kept getting passed around, and I basically worked my way up and up and up. Started associate producing Jack and Dean sketches. I then took a short break and went to work at a boarding school, quit that. Is that sausage roll delivery? Thank you so much. Yeah, got a muggle job at a boarding school, quit that, and then kind of went, I think I could produce some stuff. Sausage roll break. Do you need a degree? I'm living proof that you don't need a degree, but I did have to work my fucking arse off because I really was starting at the bottom. I didn't know anything, and everything that I have learned by doing. From what I gather from friends who have done like film or media production degrees, is that those give you a really good baseline knowledge of every single department. And you have opportunities to try out different roles, learn different skills.
Editing Reb here. There were so many things that I forgot to say. I do think it's important to stress that university isn't for everybody, and I definitely feel like university wasn't for me. And regardless of what kind of field I wanted to go into when I was making those decisions, it really was drama school or nothing then. But like, I don't think I ever would have made the choice to go to university regardless of what the degree would have been. I also recognise that I had quite a specific and lucky start in this industry, and not everybody has that. And there are loads of more accessible ways for you to get involved locally and kind of on a bigger scale. There are loads of apprenticeships and intern schemes. There's a great organisation called Creative Access who find film and TV, theatre, literary opportunities specifically for people who are BAME or from a lower socio-economic background, and I think those things are really important, and I should have mentioned them earlier, but I'm mentioning them now.
If you are wanting to be a kind of production assistant or a producer within a company, like a creative agency, I do see a lot of openings for those that do require a BA, but personally for me, I'm getting along fine with my BTEC in performing arts. Now we move on to the questions that really made me think. Why'd you like it? Genuinely, this question, I was thinking about it for hours. It's such a good question to ask people about their jobs. Why do I like producing? Why do I like being a producer? Producing allows me to perfectly combine my practical brain and my creative brain. I might have said it earlier, but there is, for me, no buzz like being on set. There's just something about it that I absolutely love. Also, on a very sort of like human level, I just really love people, and I really love creative people, and being able to collaborate and be part of a big machine where we're all independent, very talented cogs is just the nicest feeling in the world. What are the downsides? A major downside for me is that it can be incredibly stressful, and it can bleed into your personal life and your home life. Because I'm freelance, the nature of that is it's incredibly inconsistent, and I don't know how much money I'm gonna be making month to month. Do you ever produce things that you don't like, and does it make a difference? I'm in a position where if I don't like the project, I don't have to work on it. So that's nice. Also, if we're going to get real, again, going back to the freelance thing, a lot of the time I don't have a choice because I need to pay my bills. But also there are things that I am going to be naturally more interested in. The main things I focus on are like comedy and narrative. Comedy and narrative don't really pay the bills. Like, I work on a lot of stuff for brands and companies and do a lot of like corporate internal video. Don't dislike them. They are less fun to me. Essentially, no. It doesn't make a difference. A job is a job is a job. Did you want to be a producer when you were younger? No. I always wanted to be in front of the camera. I was the like theatre kid at school. I don't think I really, as a child, understood how films were made. I used to watch the special features all the time. Do you remember when Harry Potter, they used to do a kind of like behind the magic on ITV? I used to bloody love them. Why did you choose producing over other aspects of filmmaking? I have no real interest in the technical side of filmmaking, like cameras. I don't understand how they work. That's just not how my brain works. If I was to work in any other department, it would probably be in like script supervising, or maybe art department. To put it bluntly, working in production does not require special skills, like knowing how a camera works is a special skill, I'd say. It was the most accessible for me, but also it was the one where my interests aligned. How regular or reliable is the work? Freelancing is feast or famine. So let's take 2019 as an example. June and July I had no work, but August to December I worked pretty much every single day. I didn't have weekends off, and it was just absolute madness. I got really burnt out. And actually this feeds into the last question. How many projects do you have going on at once? I think the most I've ever had going on at one time was 5, and they were at varying kind of stages and level of activity. It's very important in an industry that is really quite cutthroat. It's really important to look after yourself. To sum up, every job has its difficulties and its challenges and its negatives. Producing is really fun, but it's not for everyone. See you for part 2 of this funny little thing. Bye.